Welcome to today's Ascendo Reliability webinar on product warranty. And I've got a bit of experience with this in a variety of aspects of in work, in corporations, as a consultant, expert witness, and in my own personal experiences. I suspect many of you do too. And we'll give a little background and how it works and why it works and all that good stuff. But then we'll move on from there. Let me see. There shows the chat is in there, but I'm sorry, I'm not able to see it. So hopefully, well, I should probably check it just to make sure that there's sound and all that good stuff. So I'm going to drop out of the share. And even here, I can't see the chat. There it is. Carl, is it double E? I don't think so. I can see it. All right, you guys are good. All right. So let me go back into full screen. So warranty is just a promise. It is an agreement, and we'll talk about some of the ways that's done and how it's done and stuff like that. But it's basically, I made this and I promise it'll work, and I'll back up that promise. If it doesn't work to your satisfaction, I'll replace it or refund you or do something like that. And at first, it wasn't even explicit or mentioned or whatever. It was, it was just the local blacksmith made some horseshoes for you, and if it didn't do a good job, you would tell them about it or her about it and get it replaced or redone or advice. And if everything worked, there was feedback and things improved, and yet we're humans, and that promise wasn't always kept. And then it evolved over time. And I'm not even sure I spelled promise right, but we'll see how it goes. But the idea is that a warranty is basically an agreement that if something goes wrong, if we didn't manufacture it correctly, if we didn't do what we were supposed to do, you have a backup. And it's not the buyer's beware. It's no, we'll take care of it. And there's reasons for doing that. It's good business. It's good relationship building. It's building your brand. All those kinds of good things go to help that if something doesn't quite go right, you'll stand by your product and make it right. And the simplest form of a warranty doesn't need a contract or piece of paper or anything. It's just that something isn't working, or it wasn't missing a part or doing whatever, that it's put to right. And it's as simple as that. If only. And things have certainly gotten complex, and it's a multi-billions and billions of tens of billions of dollar business, warranty and warranty management. And when you pick up a product, you accept that, yeah, they should be standing behind it, and something goes wrong, and you call them, or you walk into their shop, or you go back to the store and you register a claim. You basically are saying, hey, it's not working. Please make it right. And at that point, it really is just a request, right? So that's a quick, rough overview of what warranty is about for product warranty. And we'll get into some more of the intricacies and how it's gotten complicated and all those good things in a minute. But what I have found is that not everything associated with the cost of dealing with a customer's claim is counted as a warranty cost. So what do you count? This is where I'm going to have to drop out and see if I can get to the chat window. But what do you in your organization, what is part of the warranty cost that you have on your financial reports and stuff? So let me see if I can get out of here easily enough and find the chat window. Carl's got a dictionary or chat GTP definition of warranty. Yep, looks good. All right, so what counts as a warranty cost? Downtime in manufacturing, repair costs, replacement costs, labor, replacement parts, labor to fit it. Yeah, those are all good. Is that the total cost of when a failure occurs and a customer makes a claim? How about the call center that first gets alerted that there's an issue and issues them a return RMA, return materials authorization? I think this is what it stands for. Yeah, opportunity cost. That one's hard to quantify all the time. If you have to replace a product for free, that means that item and its shipping costs and everything else could have been used to make a profit instead of replacing one that is not profitable anymore. Yeah, when there's multiple returns, exactly. So there's how about the engineering time to do failure analysis and to redesign the product? Do we count that in an organization as warranty costs in the ledger, or is that research costs? The total cost of a warranty claim, it has a problem in that it's determined by the company or the financial people in their company, whoever is advising them. So let me go back to the screen. There are common things that are included, like call centers and the cost of the replacement components or parts, or the repair costs, or the technician's time to go to the customer site to do the repair. There are common things associated with warranty. Yet, one of the things I learned early on is that different companies will count different things as they find suitable for running their business. And one of the things that Eric Arnhem, and I think his daughter has taken over the newsletter now, but at warrantyweek.com, it's warrantyweek, all one word.com, offers a free weekly newsletter that takes a look at, from a reporter's point of view, the warranty business, and routinely is reporting on what is the warranty costs and accruals, expenses and accruals, as reported in financial documents to the, I think the FEC, not FCC, whatever, one of the government agencies that for publicly traded companies, they have to do quarterly reports or annual reports as a minimum. That includes how much they spent or had it listed as an expense for warranty and how much they're accruing for future warranty expenses. And if you compare Ford and GM, they might be at 2% and 2.25% as their actual warranty expense, say for the last quarter, as percent of net revenue. And the issue is that it's not the same bucket of things that are counted, because some organizations go after their suppliers for reimbursement in different levels and different ways. Others count call centers, others don't. Some look at call centers as a training facility cost and expense and put it in that bucket instead. So some things will be in warranty costs and some won't, and it's a local set of decisions that makes it happen. So comparing your warranty costs to a competitor's warranty costs is vague at best unless you know what they're actually counting in their tally for warranty. And that's just one of the many complications that go into warranty management. Even within a company, people are often not even clear what are all the elements that are counted in warranty or not. Now, from a financial point of view, as a reliability engineer, it provides us a measure or metric of what we could reduce the warranty costs, because if you take $1 out of warranty expense, it could go straight into profit. Uh, so the idea is that if we improve our product so that we have fewer field failures, then we have a lower warranty cost. And in general, not always, but that's usually a good thing. But I alluded to right at the top is that warranty used to be just an informal agreement between the person making the product, whether it was a cabinet or a horseshoes or nails or a carriage or whatever, and the person buying it, because they saw each other directly at the store or shop. Very few things early on were made to order in some distant place or were mass produced. That really didn't happen until the last couple hundred years. And so the idea is that if say the cabinet maker made doors that fell off and or didn't fit correctly and didn't make it right, well, that's not really great for that person's reputation. And more people will go to another cabinet maker if they had the option to get a better product. Now, in general, that cabinet maker would pay attention to feedback and would make it right, knowing that if there's another choice, they may lose their business. And so it comes down to the core of the customer satisfaction piece. If somebody is happy with a product, even after it fails, because it was handled well, you're much more likely to go back to that company or to that organization. And it's the same in the very early days of standing by your product. Now, once we started doing mass production, there weren't warranty laws, there weren't legislation and all this other stuff that we have today that required companies to stand behind their products. And in those days, if it didn't work, you really had no recourse other than to find another source somewhere else. Now, over time, all of this process has been on an ebb and flow of protecting customer or consumers or not, and back and forth. And then it goes between businesses, and there's elaborate contracts that can be created as to what happens when something goes wrong with a part. Do we replace the component or we do something else? Years ago, I learned that an organization was saying that if your power supply fails, you're going to be charged for the full cost of the entire server that this power supply is in. So instead of a $50 replacement, they would be charged $2,000 to $3,000 for the server cost. And so the power supply, when it failed, made the server just a piece of metal and plastics and stuff. And so it wasn't useful. And so what they were trying to do by contract was saying, hey, if it doesn't work, the whole thing doesn't work, and this is how much it costs. And it got a lot of attention from suppliers to take on that additional risk. But it was elaborately created in contracts and agreements from suppliers. With a company, well, let me put it this way, is when's the last time you opened up a product and it has almost always has a slip of paper or some element to it that says, here in very fine print is your warranty. When's the last time you read one of those? Many, many times they'll have a limited warranty and for a limited duration. And it'll be is so much legal jargon, it's hard to even make out what it really means and what's covered or not covered. And if the product's not terribly expensive and it's not critical to my production or process or anything else, I wouldn't even bother with it and just say, I'll deal with it later if something goes wrong. Whereas if it's a critical piece of equipment for your facility, you need to really understand what's covered or not covered. How well will they back it up and put it in contract form, which is, in my opinion, unfortunate. It used to be a handshake was all you needed, but not anymore. The other piece of this is that I don't, years and years ago, I used to only buy Craftsman tools, the hand tools in particular, because they had a lifetime, full lifetime warranty on it. If you had a screwdriver that was bent or the tip of it was stripped or broken, there would be no question asked. You go back to, it was at the time Sears that I would shopping at for these tools. They were a little bit more expensive than others that were available. Yet I knew that if anything went wrong with this tool for any reason, all I had to do is bring it to the store. If they could make out that it was a Craftsman tool, they would replace it with a similar or the same tool on the spot. I mean, I even found clamps and things like that at garage sales that were pretty bad shape. Took it in the store, got replaced. Now I know that that was a business decision to do that, to make it full lifetime, independent of who owns it. But the lifetime of that product, if it eroded or failed or corroded or did anything that it was not functional anymore, their policy was just replace it. And the little bit of insurance you buy, because it was a bit more expensive to buy a Craftsman socket set than one that was offered by some other company, it was worth it because you knew that they stood behind it. I don't know how well that works anymore because I don't think there's any Sears stores anymore around. I think they're being sold in Ace Hardwares, but I may be wrong. I haven't had a tool fail in a long time that I needed to go get it replaced. But at some point, the process is an expression, whether it's read or not, that has the backing of various courts and so on. Now, on the other hand, in Europe, warranties are required, and they're required for 2 years for a whole swath of kinds of products, where they said you must stand behind your product for a minimum of 2 years. And I think it's for like computers and TVs and all kinds of stuff like that. Why they picked 2 years, why, how that came about, why it was mandated, I have no idea. I don't know the history of why that rule came into play. Yet I do remember back with Hewlett Packard that warranty at one time was 3 months. And that was it. And that was for their test and measurement equipment, primarily, and a few of their computers and servers. And they changed the policy to make it 1 year. And part of it was to express to the market that their product was better. And this gets into marketing a little bit, but also to signal to their engineering teams that they needed to pay attention to reliability. This product needed to last. And we'll talk some more about lifetime and warranty durations and stuff like that in a few minutes. But the idea is that making sure a product lasts at least 1 year in the warranty period versus 3 months, which was 3 months was well within the development time period. So pretty much anything that showed up in the development process was like a reliability test. If it didn't work, they had to fix it. They didn't do accelerated testing because they had real products running for 3 months and they knew whether or not there was going to be issues. Debatable whether it was, all that informative or not, depending on how it was being used. But the idea was that it was near impossible to use the same testing methods to verify that a product would last for a year. And so they by design, built the products more robust, to be more robust, and ended up that the reliability and the warranty cost at a year didn't change a whole lot from what it was at 3 months, because they made the products stronger and more durable so that they had an equivalent number of failures in a year as they used to have in 3 months. Changing the policy actually changed the product's performance at one point. And it was attributed to the uncertainty of being able to check whether it was good or not over some duration. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling a little bit about different parts I know I have coming up, but the last part of the basic warranty process is that once we have a product and it's created in whatever way it's created, and we have a policy that says this is what we cover and don't cover, this is how long we cover it, and all those kinds of things, which are set up in large part by the organization that makes the product. And then a customer gets it. And almost always, I'd say raise your hand if I could see the boards on Zoom, but I don't know where they went. If you enjoy the opportunity to call customer service to report that the product isn't working, I know my personal experience, it's like 50-50. I think it was a cable company that a tree branch came down and knocked the cable off the house. It just ripped it right out of the house and broke it. And it was laying on the ground, hanging off the pole. And it's like, as many of you already know, if you ever had to call a cable company to report a internet company to report that it's not working, they almost always, by whatever internal motivation they have, ask you to reboot your modem. They power it off, plug it back in. I says, and I'm a reliability engineer, and I know that if the cable is not physically connected to the house anymore, it has no electrical connection or connectivity to the house, it is very unlikely that restarting the modem is going to fix that. And this poor agent I was talking to, she just would not listen to that. She had a script and she was going to do it. And then she says, well, let me try reaching your modem from my end. And after a few minutes, she goes, I can't seem to reach it. I says, really? How amazing. And so I tried to keep my composure until she went through her script. And then they finally said, oh, we'll send a truck out there to reattach it. Now, the customer service part is one of the functions. It's only one of the things they do is deal with something that fails. All right, a customer calls and says, hey, this isn't working. But they also deal with customers that call and say, hey, I'm having trouble setting this modem up. Which kind of cable do I put in which spot here? And the instructions aren't clear. Can you help me get it set up? So they're part instructor, they're part, tutor, they're part troubleshooters, stuff like that. Part, how do you enable a particular function or settings on your system? How do you use your product? Now, some claim that means the product wasn't designed well, or the instruction manual wasn't designed well, and is considered a failure. But some organizations count that as training or customer support to encourage them to get the most out of their product as they can. And hence, that's where sometimes customer service is considered part of warranty expenses, and sometimes it's not. It's a gray area of how you define those things within a company. But I find that if something's not working for any reason and somebody calls your company, it costs you money. It doesn't matter where you call it warranty or not, something's not right. Something's not in allowing your customer to get the full benefit of their product without having to make a phone call. Now, on the other hand of this, other end of this thing is some customer service systems are so good, it's worth calling them for any reason because they will make it right. They will solve the problem. They will help you understand it and get it going again. And there was a Dell computer back in the 90s and early 2000s had a world-class customer service system. Their laptops failed just as often as the HP laptops. Yet customers that had a laptop fail from Dell and interacted with the customer service became much more loyal customers because it was such a pleasant experience that their laptop getting back up and running again made them much more loyal to the brand. Well, then they cost cut and did a bunch of other stuff, and it made it as difficult as everyone that we dread having to contact. And you're on hold for an hour with this repeating message, your call is important to us, and so on and so on. That, or they bury customer service where you can't even find the phone number, or they don't respond to chat and it's a bot nowadays, which I found incredibly frustrating in a couple of circumstances. If they don't want me to even use their services or buy their products in the future, some companies go out of their way with their customer service setups to make that happen. But in the basic process is you make a claim, you get a pleasant person or bot or website that helps you figure out, yep, they got to send it back and they're going to replace it. And then it enters what's called a reverse supply chain. Instead of us boxing up at the factory and sending a product out to stores or straight to customers, here we have a customer boxing it up and sending it back to us. Well, where does it go? What happens to that product once it comes back? And, where is it? What's counting? What doesn't count? Does it just throw it away? Is it troubleshot? Is it detailed failure analysis? Is it refurbished and repaired and resold as used? Every business does this slightly differently. And some will even say, depending on the cost of the product, don't send it back, just throw it away. We'll send you a new one. Now, they don't do that with laptops, but they might do it with, say, a $20 item. But it varies all over the map. And then you add a wrinkle in it, you take it back to, say, Best Buy or to the grocery store or wherever, and it adds another whole sequence of steps and processes and reimbursements and shipping and more handling and so on, as to how you actually ever even, if you ever even see the product come back to your business. So if you're in the development side of things, there's financial triggers that will count it as a warranty cost as it goes to the store, to supply chain, to landfill, or wherever it goes. So many of those costs get counted as a return, and shipping out the new product as replacement counts oftentimes. Yet from a reliability point of view, where do we tie into this? And we'll talk some more about that here in a second. All right. So at the end of the day, hopefully we got the information we needed to get the product working, or we got the spare part that we could replace ourselves, or they sent us a new one. But the various ways to get to a resolution is as varied as there are companies out there. And once you get through to convincing somebody that, yes, I want this product to work and I'd like you to stand by your warranty, there's lots of options there. And sometimes it is very satisfactory. Sometimes it is just, what in the world are they thinking? Early on, I had a cell phone back when they were mostly a phone and not an app device. And it was before Bluetooth, so this a while ago. I had a plug-in headset that I used quite often. Well, it stopped working, and you could feel the connector, the socket that I was plugging into was loose. And knowing a little bit about electronics, I figured that connector had separated from the circuit board and had just enough room that you could see it moving. So at best, it was going to be intermittent. And at worst, it just didn't work at all. And it may have damaged some other components nearby it. So I call them, and they say, oh, we'll just replace the phone. So they send me a brand new phone, and they did it 3 times before. This is ridiculous. Why don't you fix this thing so that it'll work more than 2 months? And the customer service had no idea how to initiate a escalation that this design gets fixed. She had never been a part of that kind of process. It goes, no, the only option I have is to just replace it, and use the box we send to ship back the old one. It says, what do you do with the old ones? And she said, well, I don't know. It goes to some warehouse someplace. I have no idea. Unfortunately, the resolution was okay with me. I was out of that function for a couple of days while they shipped it. Yet it was frustrating from what we do for day-to-day living is why don't they actually fix this? And it didn't seem like they had a really decent way to communicate that within their organization, at least from the parts that I touched. And talking to the people in the design teams, and I knew some of them, they never got information back of what was failing in the field. They had no idea that this plug was a problem, which is unfortunate. But from a customer's point of view, if the warranty system is working and the company will figure out what is economically the appropriate way to do this with an emphasis either on or not on customer satisfaction, and it all just works. Now, some of them are way more painful and frustrating to deal with than others. And to me, it's a signal that this company really doesn't want you to make a warranty claim, or this is an afterthought and considered just an expense, and we're not going to learn from that, and which is unfortunate. But hopefully, your experience with customer service and making a claim and getting the resolution is fine and working just fine for you. Yeah, this is a rhetorical question. I could probably do a whole podcast series on how bad it can be. But one of the things I ran into a few days ago in a conversation was that I asked, so how long does your product need to last? And they said, well, the warranty period is 1 year. And the warranty period is a policy to part of that contract or promise with your customers. Now, just because it's a 1 year warranty doesn't mean that your customer only is going to use it for 1 year or expect it to only last 1 year. And if you're designing it to work for 1 year, it's unlikely that the product will work for 10 years. And so the next question was, well, how long does your customer use your product in the field? And they said 10 years, right? If you're designing for 1 year and you customers expect it to last for 10 years and it fails, say, after 5 years, for whatever reason, it's well out of warranty, is the customer going to buy your product again or buy somebody else's? And that it was like, why would they do that? It's out of warranty. They should buy it again. And I was like, well, it doesn't quite work that way. If you have an expectation and it's not met and it's not backed up by warranty, then even if it is backed up by warranty, like my experience with that cell phone plug, is I'm going to go find another source. I'm going to abandon that brand and go somewhere else. But there's oftentimes 3 different durations that we need to pay attention to, and for different reasons. And I know I've talked about it in other webinars and podcasts and writing. The idea is that the most painful part for a customer and most damage to your brand promise or brand reputation is if it fails pretty quickly. Just doesn't work out of the box, or it doesn't work within the first month or so. In bigger products, it may even be explicitly detailed in an organization, say the first 3 months. But we generally call those early life failures or infant mortality or out of box failures. Those are most damaging. If you can't create a product and ship it and it just works, then customers' expectation is immediately dashed. They didn't buy your product just to interact with your customer service system. They bought their product to solve a problem, to add value to whatever is going on in their organization or life or business or whatever. So those failures are often defined arbitrarily by an organization, and they get more attention because we know that they're very damaging to the customer satisfaction. And so it's arbitrary how it's set up. Most organizations have some definition of that thing. And it's often used for when you're building a product and you actually get people to take it out of the box and get it up and running. Can you do that? And part of it is on the instructions and how it's packaged. Does it survive shipping? Does it survive installation? All those kinds of things contribute to this out of box part. There's also issues in manufacturing or assembly processes where you forget a key component or it doesn't get soldered or whatever. That may not fail on day one, but may fail pretty quickly. Those often get lumped together in these things, yet it's exceedingly complicated in that it includes that expectation of the brand new item should just work. I want to get this moving and going and up and running to do what it needs to do. And when it doesn't work, it dashes that expectation pretty quickly. And hence the focus on getting it right when it first arrives. Now, the warranty period is a policy, and that sometimes it's regulated what the duration is and what's covered or not covered. And sometimes it's a written agreement that's in page 75 of the user's manual in fine print and legalese. But the idea is that we have an expectation of how long various products should last. There was a paper, I meant to find it before the podcast, before this event, and I'll see if I can track it down and link to it or reference it in the notes later. But the idea is that it was a European organization. They went around and they surveyed people for how long do you expect a pair of workout clothes to last versus camping gear versus a car, white appliances like washers and dryers, and computer systems and cell phones and so on. They had, I think, 10 or 12 different categories of products, and they were surveying people. How long do you expect this to last? And then they went and checked warranties, compared that to these things, which was an interesting element because like white appliances were expected to function without failure for 10 years with normal use. And the warranty was 10 years. And it was one of the rare examples where it was matched. Where cell phones, it was like 2 or 3 years they expected to work, but the warranties were often only a year or 2 years in Europe. There was a gap there. But the warranty period, as I've said, is set for financial reasons, technology reasons, marketing reasons, and understanding of the customer's expectation. And it may be full or partial or various different ways they're created, but that's typically up to the most often to an unnamed entity within your organization. I have run into very few organizations that have somebody who says, I am in charge of warranty, setting the policies and making sure they're met, and how the customer service and the whole reverse supply chain, all of that works. There's rarely somebody in charge of that whole process. There's bits and pieces attached to different parts of the organization, but somewhere along the line, somebody says, we're going to make this a 1-year warranty or 5-year warranty or 10-year warranty, and what's covered or not. The clearer that process is, the better it is understood from the design team, from the reliability program, all the way through the organization, and all the better for the entire organization. But the expected lifetime, how long a customer expects your product to last, is really the most important one in the long term, and no pun intended. Yeah, if the product gets delivered and it works, it's great. If it works all faultlessly through the warranty period, that's great. Yet if it fails a day after warranty, it's back to that out of box kind of feeling from a customer's point of view. Now, if it works for 10 years and it did what it's supposed to do, it didn't give us any grief or problems, I'll probably buy that brand again. And people in the auto industry and the white appliance industry fully understand that if their product works to the expected lifetime or beyond it, the brand loyalty goes up dramatically. And so, yet we get very little feedback from the field on expect over outside of the warranty period because we don't have a mechanism for them to call us to tell us about a failure. So each of these parts are important for different reasons, but they all are different durations we should pay attention to when we're not only taking care of warranty, but also designing the product. And so it's something to keep in mind as you design and build your next products. Now, I've mentioned this a couple of times is, who sets the policy, and rarely have I ever run into where somebody that says, hey, we want to make a 5-year warranty. Is that possible with our product? What's the reliability expectation? I've rarely have ever seen an organization take in the expected performance, the reliability performance of a product. It's much more common that it's either a requirement or an expectation from customers combined with marketing. And in some parts of the world, it's a legal requirement. The actual performance of your product is almost always done afterwards. It's part of the early on specifications, or that family of product within your organization will always have an X duration warranty with these terms. Then it gets lost in the development process. And without the input into it, unless something's really off kilter, just makes it not well informed. So I found great success at tracking down who sets these policies and what inputs are they using. And then what are the trade-offs? Are they willing to have a 10% field failure rate during the warranty period because they know that the customer service is so good that it builds brand loyalty? Did somebody think that through and do the cost benefit analysis? Or what if we improve the reliability so we lose that benefit? Or you can see where this gets really complicated really quickly. And so instead of letting it fall to defaults, try to understand how it's set in your organization so you understand the forces that are at play, that why is this important or not important to improve our warranty or reduce the warranty costs. Now, good warranty programs, customer service or field service or whatever systems we have in place to make the resolutions for customers on a warranty claim is important, not just for warranty, but for us in the development teams and manufacturing teams and supply chains to know if our product is working or not. And there's lots of ways that we can track it within an organization. And some do customer satisfaction surveys, and I get it. I mean, I just made a purchase of something and I get a survey. I haven't even gotten the product yet. I'm like, how's the product working for you? And like, all right, this is a clueless person setting up this system. But I digress. But the idea is that surveys, call centers, the actual products coming back to the system are all trigger points for us to understand, is there an issue? Now, call centers get very noisy data. Customer will call and say, hey, it doesn't work. Now, it could be that they didn't turn it on or plug it in. Or it could be the customer has a faulty cable or power supply or switch. Or it's actually failed internally, and even if the power supply is working, it's not working. Or it was the wrong product and they just want to return it. They have to parse through all that. Our customers calling call centers rarely tell them that, oh, we found 2 small capacitors dislodged at the bottom of the box, and I think they came from this and this, and this is why this function's not working. You're not going to take apart a component or a consumer product and do the diagnosis, although some of us probably will, before calling customer support. Yeah, I know of a couple of people that would do this all the time. But the idea is that until we actually get the products back and do a detailed failure analysis, root cause analysis. We really don't know what to fix. Now, we can get clues through the call center's noisy information anecdotal type information of the types of things that could be causing the symptoms that customers are seeing. And sometimes we could do buybacks or get products back that have more of a monitoring system on how it's being used and so on. We can spend money to make agreements with customers to actually use our products. And so we get a lot more information back. And there's all kinds of different costs and everything else on it. But part of every system that has a warranty has some kind of tracking, if not only for the financial hits to it. But our role is, where's that data? Where are those touch points? Where can we get the meaningful information so that we can understand, is this product meeting its expectations of out of box and warranty durations? And can we use that data to predict whether it will meet the expected lifetime targets? Or what is the Pareto of type of defects that we need to address across our system of design and assembly of these products? There's a lot of information potential. And oftentimes it's tracking down where those points are and who's got control of what kinds of information, and get to a point where you can influence what they collect and how well it's collected or how often it's collected, so that we get good enough data to do something with it. It's really frustrating when you get nothing but a customers called and said, oh, it doesn't work, or this, one or more function works, and you don't define which functions. Or there was missing parts where they don't tell you which parts, and so on and so on. If we get vague data, it just is frustrating to know what to do about it. So working with these different parts of your organization that have this interface with the warranty system allows us to influence them as what's important. What do we collect? Now, in return, as you're creating a product, we often do FMEAs and do all this work to understand what could fail and what could happen. And for those ones that we just can't design out, we just run out of runway basically in our development process. And we know there's things that could happen, but we don't know they shouldn't be too bad. We can feed that information forward to call centers and field service people and so on, so that they're aware of what to expect and can respond to it appropriately. And so creating a strong relationship with that whole system is good for us as reliability engineers as we work to influence the design and manufacturing of the products. All right. How to use warranty data. Let me pause there for a second. Let me drop out of here and get my chat window back. Here's one. Is Pramod's got a comment. We actually did engineering initiative called 1,000 calls. So design engineers completed 1,000 service calls, and we created a Pareto based on those calls. So sampled with more reliable crew. I'd say a more knowledgeable crew, although sometimes it may or may not have been what the customers was expecting. But I do enjoy it, from my point of view, is when I call and it's actually somebody that really does understand the product and its functions and how it was designed and manufactured, and can help troubleshoot through what I'm seeing so they can get an actionable piece of information out of it. I enjoy those versus somebody that's just reading a script to me. Let's see. So how do you use warranty data? One of my favorites is using it to say, are we on track? Did we hit our goals? Are we hitting the out of box, the early life failure targets? Are we hitting the warranty time targets? Are we seeing trends or indicators that we will or will not hit our expected life goals? It's feedback into the organization, and it can be used in a variety of different ways. But the more importantly is it allows us to as soon as possible detect major issues before it becomes a big, huge problem. If there's a change in manufacturing, we need to find that as soon as possible so we can address it and design out or update our manufacturing process. Nevada charts, etc. Yep. It, it's a good technique. Yeah. Are we there yet? Are we hitting our targets? Now, one thing I didn't mention earlier, oh, trend analysis and fracas. Yep, another good one. The one thing to keep in mind is not every customer or user of your product is going to report that something's not working. Right? It doesn't matter what the cost is. They may just walk away from your product and buy your competitors. And they won't bother to call you to tell you that that's why they dropped off. And by default, we often assume that product is still in use. Now we know there's some drop off, just people switching brands for whatever reasons. They moved from Apple to Google, and they're not allowed to bring their iPhone over there. They have to get a Google phone of some sort, a Android phone, for all kinds of reasons. People switch brands. But our data that we get back, if we have 100 return products, you can put good money on a bet that there's more people that have had failures and did not report it to you. Right? That their product's not working, or some part of it is not working, and they're either making do or they moved on to another product. And we don't know that that product failed. And so there's even our warranty data is a subset of what actually is failing in the field. Yeah, part of it is info for finance and for engineering and manufacturing, and returns almost always underreported. Yeah, and I'm trying to think of his name, McMurphy or something like that. Wrote a couple of books and did a bunch of research on this gap between what's actually reported versus what actually happens in the field. So there's a bunch of interesting information out there on that. So yes, you can use warranty data to estimate life, understanding that it's going to be a bit over reporting how much is actually living, right? So if we only get 90% of the field return failures reported, we're missing some information. The issue is we usually don't know what is not reported. And we usually make the assumption that those products are still in service without failure. And so it has to be taken with that knowledge in mind, that it's a bit over reporting what the actual phenomena is in the field. And so it's useful. It's as data from our customers in customer use, yet it's underreported. And so it's something to be cautious of. Some say it's better, depends on your industry or business and what kind of price point it is how well stuff is reported. In some companies, will put sensoring systems and call back to the mothership kind of reporting systems. I'm thinking of the Tesla cars, as the telemetry is sent back to Tesla engineers on a regular basis. So they get a really good sense of what's working and not working within their vehicles in near real time. That's hard for me to say. And so there are ways to go about it. It's expensive, yet if you really want better data, getting a bunch of telemetry back from your devices as they're being used is a way to do that. And some companies and some industries have that more than others. All right, get to here to the last segment. So returns. They are a wealth of information, right? It's one of the things I've run into, and I'll jump, I think maybe one or two slides ahead, is the returns of a product, even products with no trouble found or no fault found, just means we're not thinking well enough or hard enough about why the customer returned this thing. It may be hard to use. It may have an intermittent failure, or it may have some kind of interaction problem with other parts of that person's system where this box was being used, where your item was included in. If it turns on, the green light comes on, and you run a self test on it, and it's all good. It really is dependent on how well that testing that it fire up and self test is actually designed. Is it covering all the ways that a customer could say, no, this isn't working, and return it? One of my favorite, and I know I've told the story before, is I was called down to the shipping dock for a big pallet full of returns. And I said, why do you need to show me this? It says, well, it looks like exactly the way we package it to ship out. And it was still sealed. It had all the factory stuff on it, and it was obviously overstock at some outlet somewhere, and they just shipped the whole pallet back. Digging into it, it found out that our policy encouraged people to claim it was a warranty return versus, because they got full reimbursement for the components, versus an overstock error, which they had to pay a restocking fee, I think, of like 10%. So there was no incentive of admitting that you over purchased and you're just sending it back to stock versus calling it a warranty and you get 100% back. So there was some heated discussions with policymakers and contract writers to sort that one out. But sometimes there is an actual physical or electrical or even software fault that we can find and make a difference and improve our product or system. So if you're going to do the failure analysis, make sure that you have a system in place that you can actually do something about it. Right? It's great to find out what fails, but if nobody is going to take action on it now or in the near future, it's a lot of fun taking things apart and figuring out what went wrong. Yet, if it doesn't add value at the end of the day, then don't do it. But take a look at, in your organization, how your products come back and what happens to them. And maybe instead of saying, even if it's a low cost product, instead of saying toss it, spend the extra money to get it back, or spend time with those customers to understand why they're shipping it back, in order to figure out where to go, where to make the improvements. It could be in the instruction sheets, it could be on the feature sets that's in it, it could be what color it is, it could be the ability to interact with other systems that are within, say, a home or a business, and so on and so on. But if we don't truly understand it beyond just the hardware, software aspects of it, we're missing a good section of why people return products. Return products still cost us money, whether it was a bad power supply or not. So those no trouble found ones are still worth, understanding, and not just segregating, saying, hey, we tried, we don't understand it. Spend a little bit more effort, open your horizons a bit to understand what and why it's failing. Now, the Delta program, I'll close out on this one, is a program where you get part of your team to focus on a new program as it's being launched and deployed into the market, and get real aggressive about getting components back and understanding exactly why it's being returned and what the failures are. And so it's part marketing, part engineering, part manufacturing around that team that understand this product, that have the license or the charter to dig deep, get the root causes, and make system changes, make design changes, make manufacturing changes. It's a program early on in a program, to really aggressively go after every single reported problem and fix it, get it right. It does a world of benefit to your future customers and to your profitability, because it usually drives down the failure rate very, very quickly. and to a lower spot than you would have gotten to just on the design program itself. So I've seen it run a number of different organizations and industries, and it works exceedingly well. It's an investment. It pays for itself pretty quickly in every example I've seen it run where it's been run well. The last thing, or I guess I got 1 minute here, I'll talk about is warranty is often the first thing people think about when we're saying we need to make it more reliable. But it's only a fraction of what where the value is, right? A customer that comes back and buys your products year over year over year is not doing so because it lasted the warranty period. They're doing it because it met their expectations. Now, understanding their expectations for its performance over time is different than a warranty. Warranty is almost always counted as related to failure rate, field failure rates. Reducing field failure rates is a good idea, yet it's not the only source of value. And so while many people want to reduce field failures and reduce warranty costs, how about we make a product that actually works, but also is on time and is easy to manufacture and it exceeds customers' expectations so that they become advocates for our product. It's way more valuable than just the lower failure rate in many industries. So part of it is warranties exist. It exists in different ways in all of our different organizations. From where we sit, it's often a way for us to interact with all of those parts of the organization so that we get the most value out of all that information that's available and add value by creating products that just work. So I think that's all I got. And sorry about the rough start there and not being able to see the chat window all the way throughout. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording.